We all know the picture-perfect facade, right? A gorgeous home, maybe two kids, a completely comfortable routine, and 20 years of shared history. On the outside, it looks like absolute unshakable stability. But inside, behind those closed doors, a deafening silence is slowly, millimeter by millimeter, just taking over. Today, in this explainer, we're stripping the mask completely off the so-called midlife marriage crisis. Look, this isn't some tired cliche about buying a flashy sports car or having a sudden meaningless fling. No, this is the hidden architecture of profound emotional burnout, the exact kind that quietly destroys unions from the inside out.
The stakes in this game are incredibly high, honestly. We're diving straight into a psychological crime scene where love, identity, and decades of shared hopes are the actual victims. We're going to decode exactly how two people who once swore to be together for better or worse transform into absolute strangers tied together by literally nothing more than logistics and a mortgage.
Which brings us to the ultimate and frankly most brutal question we can ask. Why do perfectly stable, seemingly indestructible 20-year marriages suddenly just implode the moment partners cross that threshold of 40? We're not going to bore you with dry academic theories today. We are looking directly into the face of raw, unfiltered human drama. Because trust me, this explosion, it's never an accident. The landmine was planted many, many years ago. Section 1. Anatomy of the silent distance. So, the destruction of a long-term marriage is never just a single explosive event. It's a slow, fatal collision of existential realities. And the chronology of this decay? It follows a mercilessly predictable pattern. The sweet illusions of youth evaporate, and right in their place comes this terrifying realization of our own mortality. You look at the person you've shared a bed with for decades and you realize, wow, you have fundamentally changed, but the script of your relationship hasn't. Those first years, years 1 to 3, they're all about adaptation. Then, by year 5 to 7, habituation sets in. It gets comfortable. But the real turbulence, that hits between years 10 and 14. That's the midlife identity crisis. Finally, between years 15 and 19, we enter the terminal phase. Total burnout and the empty nest. Those passionate lovers have slowly devolved into mere functional partners, where literally all communication is just reduced to unpaid bills and figuring out the kids' schedules. And that is exactly where marriage burnout takes hold. This isn't just your everyday, run-of-the-mill fatigue. This is a deeply painful state of total physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion within a union. And for the longest time, this decay is masterfully masked by parenting. You see, the children, they act as the glue holding that cracking facade together. But when those children grow up and leave, well, that glue just dissolves. And that empty nest, the silence between the couple becomes truly deafening. You suddenly realize that beyond your roles as co-parents, there is absolutely nothing left tying the two of you together.
Section 2. The female breaking point.
66%. That is the staggering number of gray divorces, meaning divorces in midlife or later, that are initiated by women. And listen to this, in some demographics within advanced economies, that number skyrockets to a shocking 70 or even 80%. It's a total psychological truth bomb. Women are simply no longer willing to play the role of the convenient emotional donor in a relationship that has hit a dead end. But you have to understand, this female exit is never a sudden impulse. The statistics here are just ruthless. 1 in 3 women silently incubate this decision for over 2 years before ever saying a single word about it out loud. It's the finale of a really long, agonizing internal process. Think of it as the weight of 10,000 drops of loneliness. It's the absolute exhaustion from the endless second shift of domestic labor. It's that newfound financial autonomy that finally whispers in her ear, hey, you don't actually have to endure this anymore. The actual divorce is just the final drop. Because the truth is, she's already spent years in secret, silently mourning and burying this first marriage.
Section 3.
the male blind spot. So while she is spending years making her internal exit, sending out these tiny, unread microsignals of pain and very quiet requests for connection,
He experiences the physical exit as a violently external shock. To him, it's literal thunder from a clear blue sky. In fact, studies show that 26% of men admit they were completely blindsided by the divorce. Why? Well, because the male psyche often misreads the absence of an open scandal as absolute safety. Basically, if she's cooking dinner and she's not smashing plates against the wall, he assumes the marriage is rock solid. He is genuinely, truly blind to those invisible signals of distress.
And right behind this shock lies some incredibly raw, primitive defense mechanisms. The midlife dread hits a man with this terrifying fear of failure, and he masks that fear entirely with distance. Jungian analysts actually call it the crisis of moving from the hero archetype to the sage. Unable to handle this intense existential anxiety, what does he do? He escapes into action. He buries himself in work, retreats to the garage, or suddenly picks up these extreme new hobbies. Emotional alexithymia sets in, which is a literal neurological inability to identify, process, or express his own feelings. So he withdraws entirely into himself, right at the exact moment she needs his emotional presence the most. If you really want to decode the hidden mechanics of the human mind with us,
Подпишитесь на канал, чтобы понимать скрытые механизмы человеческой психики.
what we're uncovering today is just the very tip of the iceberg, and we are just getting started on this deep dive. Section 4: Chemistry, Biology, and Burnout. You see, this crisis is so much more than just bad communication. It's a ruthless, biological imperative where your hormones literally collide in a destructive dance. For women, perimenopause hits around 38 to 40. Estrogen and oxytocin levels drop, which means she completely loses that physiological buffer that basically forced her to smooth over conflicts and sacrifice her own needs for decades. She develops a reactive amygdala, meaning her brain's threat center is just on high alert constantly. Things she used to easily tolerate now feel physically unbearable. Her biological limit for compromise is officially maxed out.
And what exactly is happening to the man at this exact same time? A gradual drop in testosterone. He loses his dopamine motivation, that primal instinct of the hunter and conqueror. He sinks into a sort of physiological passivity, a really deep emotional lethargy. It's a devastating biological paradox, honestly. He's losing his drive to engage right when she is physiologically demanding that emotional engagement the most.
The legendary marriage researcher John Gottman captured this with chilling precision. He said contempt kills love faster than anger. Indifference is worse than a fight. When Gottman analyzed the 4 horsemen of relationship apocalypse, which are criticism, defensiveness, contempt, and stonewalling, he found he could actually predict divorce with over 90% accuracy. That silence that fills the house when the kids leave, that isn't peace, it's stonewalling. It's pure indifference, and it is absolutely the deadliest weapon of all. Section 5: Rebuilding a New Contract. So, is there a way back from the edge? Absolutely. But here is the major secret. We're not going to fix the old marriage. The old marriage is dead. The goal here is to build an entirely new contract between 2 completely changed people. And the roadmap for this rebirth requires radical, almost painful honesty. Step 1, a strict 6-month ban on the word divorce. You literally have to weld the escape hatch shut to force all of that energy into reconstruction. Step 2, a massive shift to what we call I vulnerability. You have to stop saying, "you ignore me," and start saying, "I feel terrified of losing our connection." Step 3 is erotic reconstruction, which means ditching the performative standards of your youth to sensually explore each other's changed bodies. And finally, step 4, creating a powerful, unifying project for the second half of your lives together. But I'll tell you, the most vital tool in all of this is what psychologists call the love map. This is the internal neurological space where your partner's constantly changing hopes, fears, and history are stored. It is a fatal error to just assume you still know the person you've lived with for 20 years. They have changed beyond recognition. To survive this, you have to become an explorer. You have to romantically re-interview this stranger sleeping on the pillow next to you, and you have to do it with deep, seductive curiosity.
We've reached the end of our explainer today, and it is time to ask yourself the most ruthless question of all. Look at your relationship right now. Are you clinging to this crumbling facade purely out of a panicked fear of being alone? Or are you brave enough, passionate enough, and radically honest enough to look this brand new stranger right in the eyes and choose them all over again? The choice is completely yours.